Okay, welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be diving in.
So you brought us a real cornerstone text today. It's foundational stuff for figuring out those conversations.
Yeah.
You know, the tricky ones, high stakes sometimes, but always necessary when you need to agree on something. We're getting into negotiation, guided by getting to, yes, principled negotiation.
Yeah, it's such a classic. And it really pushes back against how most people think about negotiation.
Which is usually
That it's a fight, right? A zero-sum game. If I get more, you must get less. But this book from the Harvard Negotiation Project, it offers a really different way, a much more productive way, frankly.
And that's what we're doing in this deep dive, unpacking their framework.
That's the plan.
A framework that's aiming for, well, win-win, I guess. Or at least agreements that make sense, are fair, and crucially, don't destroy the relationship getting there.
Exactly. It's about giving you the skills to negotiate effectively, fairly, and collaboratively.
Collaboratively, okay.
Transforming it from this head-to-head battle into more of a joint problem-solving thing.
Joint problem solving. That sounds, well, pretty different from my last salary review, or buying a car, or even, figuring out dinner plans sometimes.
Right. It often feels like a tug of war.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the mindset they want to shift. They lay out this principled negotiation approach.
Yeah.
It's built on 4 main ideas.
Yeah.
And the first one, well, it's maybe the most crucial and probably the hardest to actually do.
Okay, hit me with it.
Separate the people from the problem.
Right. Okay, I can immediately see why that's tough. Negotiations feel so personal. Their demand feels like it's them demanding it.
Totally. And that's where it goes sideways, isn't it?
Yeah.
Emotions flare up, egos get involved. We stop listening because we're just reacting to them, their tone, maybe how stubborn they seem, and so the actual thing we're trying to sort out, the contract, the price, whatever. This principle is just a stark reminder. The issue itself is separate from the human across the table.
So you're not saying ignore their feelings, but don't make the person the enemy.
Precisely. Acknowledge they're human, you're human, acknowledge the emotions, yours too. Try to understand their perspective, like really see it from their side, even if you think it's totally off base.
Why are they saying that? What's their logic?
Exactly. And while you're doing that, consciously work on just maintaining a basic working relationship. Politeness, listening, confirming you heard them. It sounds simple, but...
Active listening.
Yeah.
Feels like that's key here, not just planning your comeback.
Oh, it's critical. And showing empathy, saying something like, I can see this is frustrating for you. That doesn't mean you agree with them. It just shows you recognize how they're feeling. It can really dial down the tension.
Can you give an example where separating the person makes a tangible difference?
Sure. Let's say you're negotiating a project deadline with a colleague. Maybe someone known for being difficult.
Okay, know the type.
Right. If you let their attitude get under your skin, you start thinking, ugh, they're being impossible again. You're stuck fighting the person. But if you consciously separate them from the problem, you push aside your annoyance about them and you focus on the shared issue. How do we get this project done well and on time? You talk facts, tasks, resources. You engage with their points about the timeline, sure. But you don't get sucked into a fight about their personality. You're working together on the schedule, not battling the person.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Powerful start. Separate the people from the problem. What's principle number 2?
Principle 2 flows right from that. Focus on interests, not positions.
Interests, not positions.
Okay, this is another huge stumbling block. So many negotiations get stuck here.
Because people come in with their demand, like, I need a $1,000 raise, that's the position.
Exactly that. Or, I'll only pay $4,000 for that car. And then you just argue back and forth over those numbers, defending your ground, trying to pull them your way.
The haggle.
Yeah. But the position, the $1,000, the $4,000, that's just the surface level. It's the solution someone came up with to meet their real needs, their underlying interests.
So the interest is the reason behind the demand. The why.
Precisely. That's the magic question. Why? Why do they want that specific number? Why is that term so important? You need to ask it of them and also of yourself. What are my underlying interests here?
So their interest might be needing that $1,000 to cover childcare costs. Or maybe they just feel it reflects their value fairly compared to others.
Could be anything. Financial needs, feeling respected, security, fairness, principle. Lots of possibilities.
And if you understand those underlying needs, those motivations.
Then you open up the possibility of finding other ways to meet those needs. You stop fighting over the fixed position, that one specific number, and you start exploring the whole landscape of what actually matters to both sides.
What do I really need? What are they really concerned about?
Yes. And when you map out those interests, yours and theirs, you often find surprising common ground. Or maybe ways your different interests can actually fit together. Things you'd never see if you were just locked horns on the initial positions. Shared interests become the foundation for building an agreement.
Isn't there that classic orange story?
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
The two sisters fighting over the last orange.
Yeah. Their position is, I want the orange. Split in half, right? Seems fair.
Seems fair, but suboptimal. Because if you ask why their interests, one sister wants the peel to bake a cake, the other wants the fruit inside to make juice. So by understanding the interests, one gets all the peel, the other gets all the juice. Both are way better off than just getting half an orange they didn't fully want.
Perfect example. So like in a union negotiation.
Definitely. The union's position might be, say, a 5% wage increase. But their underlying interests could be about keeping pace with inflation, feeling valued, having job security maybe, or predictable hours.
And the company's position is, we can only afford 2%.
Right. But their interests might be maintaining profitability for investment, or maybe attracting top talent, or needing flexibility. If you only fight over that percentage point gap, you miss chances. Like addressing job security through training programs maybe, or improving benefits, or finding scheduling solutions. Things that might satisfy key worker interests and maybe the company's interests too, without just being about that headline wage number.
Okay, got it. So separate people, focus on interests. Once we kind of understand what everyone really wants or needs, what's next?
That brings us right to principle 3. Invent options for mutual gain. This is the brainstorming part.
Okay, the creative phase.
Exactly. Once you know the interests involved, the goal is to generate as many potential solutions as possible before you start judging them.
So don't shoot ideas down immediately, just get them out there.
Yes. You absolutely have to separate the inventing from the deciding. Just let the ideas flow. How many ways can we think of to satisfy these different interests we've uncovered? Look for ways to create value, make both sides better off.
This sounds like that expanding the pie idea, not just assuming there's a fixed amount to fight over.
Yeah, precisely that. The fixed pie mindset is probably one of the biggest roadblocks in negotiation. Can we add resources somehow?
Yeah.
Change the scope. Bring someone else in. Trade things that one side values more than the other.
Like, my time is cheap on Tuesdays, yours is expensive, maybe we swap something.
Could be. The point is just brainstorm widely. Look for those win-win possibilities that tick as many boxes on the interest list as possible.
Can you give an example of where this inventing options thing really works?
Think about roommates arguing over chores.
Yeah.
Classic.
Oh, yeah.
Positions might be, I'm done doing dishes, versus, well, I'm not cleaning the bathroom then. Deadlock. But look at interests. Maybe one person needs quiet evenings to study. Another really values a spotless kitchen. A third hates scrubbing, but doesn't mind vacuuming. Once you know that, you can invent options. Can the kitchen-focused person do all the kitchen stuff if the student gets guaranteed quiet time? Can Mr. Vacuum trade that chore for something the bathroom hater takes on? You brainstorm swaps, packages, different ways to combine tasks that leverage those different interests and preferences. Much better than just grumpily splitting everything 50-50.
Makes total sense. Okay, so people separate from problem, interests, not positions, invent options. What's the last pillar?
The fourth and final core principle is insist on using objective criteria.
Objective criteria, what does that mean exactly?
It means basing the agreement on some standard or benchmark that's fair and legitimate, independent of what either side just wants.
So not just my opinion versus your opinion.
Exactly. Think market value, expert opinions, industry standards, scientific judgment, legal precedents, maybe efficiency or safety standards, something you can both point to and say, okay, that's a fair way to measure this, and neither of you just made it up on the spot.
It brings in, like, external validation, fairness.
Precisely. It shifts the discussion away from, I demand this because I'm powerful, or I feel this is right, towards what does a fair outcome look like based on these agreed principles or data. It helps you make reasoned agreements, not just cave under pressure. It turns it from a battle of wolves into a shared search for a fair standard.
The used car negotiation seems like a good fit here, too.
Perfect example. Instead of just throwing numbers back and forth, my car's worth X, no, your offer is insulting. You bring in objective criteria.
Like the Kelly Blue Book value.
Or recent sales data for that exact model and condition. Or maybe an estimate from an independent mechanic on needed repairs. You're not arguing pure opinion then. You're discussing how this specific car stacks up against external, agreed-upon benchmarks. Gives you a rational basis for talking price.
Okay, wow. So those are the 4 pillars. Separate people problem, focus interest, not positions, invent options, use objective criteria. That's a really solid framework for trying to negotiate collaboratively. But what about when the other side just isn't playing ball? What if they are way more powerful? Or they start using dirty tricks?
Yeah. The reality check. The book definitely addresses this. And the first, maybe the single most important tool you have when things get tough or when there's a power imbalance is understanding and developing your BATNA.
Your BATNA, what's that stand for?
It stands for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement.
Okay.
It's your plan B. Simple as that. If this negotiation completely fails, if you walk away with no deal, what's the absolute best thing you can do instead?
Why is knowing your backup plan so crucial during the negotiation?
Because your BATNA sets your reservation point.
Yeah.
It's your walkaway point. You should never accept a deal that's worse than your BATNA.
Oh, okay.
Any agreement you make has to be better for you than just do your BATNA. If it isn't, you walk away and you execute plan B.
So it gives you power, confidence. You're not desperate if you know you have a decent alternative.
Exactly. That's the source of your power. A strong BATNA gives you strength that has nothing to do with being aggressive or loud. It frees you. You don't feel cornered into taking a lousy deal just because you're afraid of getting nothing. You have the confidence to say no thank you to bad terms.
The book's job offer example seems perfect here.
Yeah, it's the classic illustration. You're negotiating salary for job offer A.
Right.
But you also have a solid, acceptable offer from Company B in your back pocket.
Right.
That offer from Company B is your BATNA. It means you know you have a decent outcome waiting, even if Company A won't meet your needs. That knowledge totally changes your position, your leverage, your confidence negotiating with Company A. You're not just hoping, you know your alternative.
Okay, so BATNA protects you from bad deals. But what about those hardball tactics? Extreme demands, maybe personal insults, lies, pressure tactics.
Right. The advice here is really clear. Do not play their game. Don't sink to that level.
Don't respond in kind.
No. The core strategy is, 1, recognize the tactic for what it is. 2, maybe even call it out explicitly but calmly. It seems like you're putting a lot of pressure on with that deadline. And 3, pivot back to the principles.
How so?
Ask about their interests again. Help me understand why that deadline is so firm. Refer back to objective criteria. What market data supports that price? Propose brainstorming options again. Could we explore other ways to meet your need for speed?
It sounds a bit like martial arts, using their energy against them.
That's exactly the idea behind what they call negotiation jujitsu. Instead of meeting force with force, you sidestep their attack and redirect the energy back towards solving the problem on its merits.
So if they attack you personally...
You might deflect.
Yeah.
I hear your frustration, but maybe we can focus on the issue itself. If they make some crazy opening demand, you don't have to make an equally crazy counteroffer or storm off. You could ask questions that bring it back to substance. Can you walk me through how you arrived at that number? Or what underlying needs would that figure help you meet? Always trying to shift it back to interests or objective criteria.
What are some specific tactics the book warns about?
Oh, things like deliberate deception, presenting false facts, using threats or warnings, setting up phony deadlines to rush you, good cop, bad cop routines, personal attacks to make you uncomfortable or defensive, refusing to negotiate at all, stressful situations. Lots of stuff.
And the general advice is recognize it, maybe name it, and steer back to a principled discussion.
That's the essence of it. Bringing the tactic itself into the light often reduces its effectiveness. And they even suggest sometimes negotiating about the negotiation itself first.
Like setting ground rules.
Yeah. Before you dive into the substance, maybe agree on the process. Shall we agree to share relevant information? How will we handle disagreements on facts? Setting up those rules beforehand can head off a lot of gamesmanship later.
Huh. That's meta. Okay, so we've got the principles, handling tough situations with BATNA and Jiu-Jitsu. What are some really practical, hands-on tools from the book that, you listening can use maybe tomorrow?
Okay, one really powerful one is the idea of going to the balcony.
Metaphorically speaking.
Yes. It means when things get heated or you feel yourself reacting emotionally, mentally, step back. Imagine you're standing on a balcony looking down at the negotiation, including yourself.
Ah, detachment.
Yeah, it gives you perspective. You can see the dynamics more clearly, observe what's happening without being caught up in it, and then choose a constructive response instead of just reacting on impulse.
Like pressing pause in your head. Good one. What else?
Another simple but really effective tool: ask open-ended questions, not yes-no questions. Questions that start with why, how, what, tell me more about.
Like, why is that aspect so important to you?
Exactly. Or what information led you to that conclusion? It encourages them to talk, to reveal more about their interests, their assumptions, their constraints. It opens up the conversation.
And I think you mentioned a one-sheet prep tool.
Oh yeah, the negotiation one sheet. It's basically a pre-negotiation cheat sheet you make for yourself.
What's on it?
You jot down, what are my key interests? What are their likely interests? What are my goals? Realistic, optimistic. Brainstorm some potential options, even crazy ones initially. Identify possible objective criteria. And critically, what is my BTNA? What's their likely BATNA?
So it forces you to think through the whole framework beforehand.
Exactly. It focuses your preparation and keeps you anchored on the important stuff during the actual talk.
And the absolute bottom line, especially when you feel pressured to just get it done.
Know your BTNA and trust it. Never ever feel you have to agree to a deal that's worse than your best alternative if you walk away. Remember, no agreement can be much better than a bad agreement.
This whole approach,
Yeah.
it really feels like it applies way beyond just business deals, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Boardroom, yes, but also living room. Negotiating with your partner, your kids, community groups, planning a vacation with friends. Anywhere you need to reach an agreement with someone who sees things differently.
It's useful for you, the listener, pretty much everywhere.
It really is. It reframes the whole interaction.
Yeah, it shifts it away from that feeling of fighting over limited scraps.
Right.
Towards trying to bake a bigger cake together, or maybe finding different kinds of cake everyone likes.
Exactly. And doing it in a way that actually preserves or even strengthens the relationship, which, let's face it, is often just as valuable as the specific outcome you're negotiating.
This has been really insightful. Diving into getting to yes definitely provides a much clearer roadmap for those conversations.
It really aims to turn negotiation from something stressful we avoid into an opportunity for creative problem solving and finding mutual value.
So here's a thought to leave you with, stemming right from this source material. Just think about how often you actually negotiate in a typical day or week. Maybe without even labeling it negotiation, those small moments, meeting to align with someone else. What if, just for one of those interactions this week, you tried approaching it differently, not as a contest, but as a joint problem to solve? What might change if you genuinely tried to uncover interest, brainstormed a few options, or just paused, went to that mental balcony before reacting? What doors might that open?